The most dramatic events in the Texas War for Independence occurred at the Alamo and at San Jacinto. But the first shots actually were fired at Gonzales in a dispute over a cannon. That cannon disappeared a long time ago, but a doctor in South Texas now thinks he's found it.
The people of Gonzales had asked the Mexican government for a cannon in 1831. They wanted it for protection against the Indians. The Mexican government at San Antonio de Bejar granted the request. It loaned the cannon as a sign of goodwill. 4 years later, the Anglo colonists were restless, and the Mexicans decided they wanted the cannon back. Santa Anna ordered the cannon returned. That was late in September 1835. There were only 18 men in Gonzales at the time, but they were determined not to give up the cannon. They buried it in George Davis's peach orchard. Lieutenant Francisco Castañeda showed up with 100 Mexican dragoons to retrieve the little cannon. The people of Gonzales sent for reinforcements and got about the same number of men the Mexicans had. A spokesman for the group called out to the Mexican contingent, "I cannot, nor do I desire to, deliver up the cannon, and only through force will we yield." A battle flag was fashioned out of a wedding dress. It contained a black star, a cannon, and the challenge, "Come and take it." On the morning of October 2nd, 1835, the Gonzales forces dug up the cannon, filled it with chain and scrap metal, crossed the Guadalupe River, and fired at the Mexican forces. 1 Mexican soldier was killed. The others were not anxious to face any kind of artillery and returned to Bejar. It wasn't much of a battle, but the Texas Revolution had begun. Patrick Wagner is a doctor living in Shiner, not far from where the Battle of Gonzales occurred almost a century and a half ago. Dr. Wagner is a gun collector with a special fondness for weapons with historical significance in Texas. And Dr. Wagner is convinced that this is the cannon that fired the shot that started the revolution. This little cannon has just recently come back to Texas. Dr. Wagner first spotted it at a gun show in San Antonio. The cannon was identified simply as a small iron cannon dug up at Gonzales, Texas, and that it probably dates back to the Mexican period in Texas between 1821 and 1836. The cannon was owned by Henry Guerra, a gun collector from Reynosa, Mexico. Dr. Wagner felt that any cannon dug up near Gonzales had to be important. He was determined to buy or trade for the cannon. It took many months, but he finally acquired it in December of 1979. Dr. Wagner still was not sure of what he had, but he and 2 other men spent many hours over the next several months researching the cannon's history. Military historians from Texas and from the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. studied the cannon. X-rays were taken. Dr. Wagner performed what he calls cannonoscopy, taking pictures of the inside of the cannon. Almost all the evidence supports Dr. Wagner's contention that this is the come-and-take-it cannon. The real clincher, as far as Dr. Wagner is concerned, is the evidence of work performed by a gunsmith and blacksmith who had the foresight to write about what he had done in October of 1835.
This man was Noah Smithwick, and Smithwick said that he bushed the cannon and spiked the cannon. And in the process of using cannonoscopy, looking down the barrel, we found the pit here was actually a spike. And then by x-raying the cannon, we found that the spike contained 2 bushings, which were in essence the signature of Noah Smithwick.
Some people are not convinced that this is the cannon Dr. Wagner says it is. They think it is too small. It is only 21.5 inches long, but it is very close to the size the original documents say it was. Some reports say the cannon was made of bronze. Smithwick says it was made of iron. This cannon has both. This much is known. Stephen F. Austin came to lead the Gonzales forces to Bejar on October 11th, 1835. He intended to take the cannon with him, but the old wooden carriage overheated and broke down. The carriage was burned, and the cannon was buried again. this time near Sandy's Creek along the old San Antonio Road. 101 years later, Lowell Cooper of Nixon, Texas, discovered a cannon partially uncovered by a major flood. It was at a site that matched the one described by Noah Smithwick as the site where the Come and Take It cannon had been buried. When Cooper returned the next day to dig up the cannon, it was gone. It had perhaps been picked up by a rural mail carrier, because the cannon now in Dr. Wagner's possession was stored in the basement of the Gonzales post office for 32 years. A new post office was built and the basement of the old one was cleaned out in 1968. It was then that the cannon was traded to Henry Guerra of Reynosa. Dr. Wagner feels that this little cannon belongs to the people of Texas. It will be displayed in museums all over the state. It will not steal the Alamo's thunder, but it will serve as a reminder that Gonzales is where the Texas Revolution began.
If there would have been no cannon at Gonzales, there would have been no battle at Gonzales. And if there had been no battle at Gonzales, there possibly wouldn't have been a revolution at that particular time. So this is probably the most, in my opinion, the most historic cannon in Texas.
Palmetto State Park, near Otine in Gonzales County, is well down south in the central portion of the state. It's another area of distinctive interest, being open for popular enjoyment. Hardwoods, heavily draped in Spanish moss, and a wealth of semi-tropical vegetation, many specimens of which are not found elsewhere in Texas, make it a bower of beauty for the layman and a treasure trove for the scientist. Its lowlands abound with quaking marshes and other natural phenomena. Some structures are thatched with native palmetto. There's cactus, too, and occasionally a friendly cow wanders in to enjoy an unaccustomed diet.
Push it down. And up again. Bend that knee, come on.
Are your fingers closed? Good. There you go. Is your thumb straight?
A large part of what goes on here is therapy, physical and occupational therapy, for victims of strokes and accidents and other things that cause people to lose the use of muscles in their bodies. People come to Warm Springs Rehabilitation Hospital so they can leave more independently than they came. The location of the hospital here can be traced to one of those Texas twists of fate. It happened shortly after the turn of the century. Someone drilling for oil hit water. The drilling started in 1906, but was halted by rock at about 1,500 feet. The well was abandoned for a couple of years, and then drilling was resumed in late September 1909. The rock still proved to be an obstacle until the senior Howard Hughes was brought in, and the cone rock bit bearing his name was brought to bear on the problem. They broke through in a couple of hours and started the artesian flow of hot water. They finally abandoned the well at 3,398 feet, with the water 105 degrees, still flowing. Over the years, a few people came to bathe in these waters, but little was done to develop the area as a health spa. Then in the mid-30s, some citizens of Gonzales got together and started to lay the groundwork that led to the organization of the Gonzales Warm Springs Foundation and the eventual building of the hospital. This is the foundation's 40 acres. The first building here was dedicated in the spring of 1940. A letter of endorsement from President Franklin D. Roosevelt helped get the project started. Development slowed almost to a halt during the war years, but the spread of polio in the late 40s and early 50s presented the Warm Springs Foundation with its greatest challenge to that time. Most of the people brought here then were young, children and teenagers, struck by a disease that no one understood. Warm Springs was the place to bring someone crippled by polio. The treatment and therapy provided here was the best answer anyone knew at the time. Then came the Salk vaccine, and almost no one caught polio anymore. Warm Springs turned its attention to people disabled by other diseases, and spinal cord injuries, and strokes, and birth defects. Many of the things that help patients feel better and function more on their own are made here at the hospital.
We make all the orthotic equipment, commonly termed leg braces and so forth, back braces, do all wheelchair modifications and that type of thing.
Going okay?
Occupational therapy is designed not so much to teach someone a trade as to give the patient the skills to perform everyday tasks.
In occupational therapy, we're helping people learn how to use their muscles in order to manage their environment. They manage the tools of their environment, which may be their fork or their spoon or their hairbrush, but it also may be avocational activities like cards and games or any of those items. The young man who was working with the macrame actually has very few muscles in his hands, and yet he is learning to use a substitute system of pulling his wrists back, and that enables him to hang on to objects very efficiently. And through working with the macrame, he gets very skilled in this new pattern of using his hands.
We have a number of different patients on the mats, and they're being exercised either for muscle strengthening or for functional independence, that is, learning to turn over, learning to sit up from the mat, those types of things. The man in the back is having a compression treatment to reduce swelling in his lower extremity, and it basically is a milking action on the extremity to help get the fluid to be reabsorbed into the circulatory system.
6, 7, 8.
Everyone here works towards a common goal of improving a patient's mobility or improving their ability to cope with their handicap. Our patients span the whole range from pediatric to geriatric patients. Probably the largest number of patients that we deal with are the older individuals that have had strokes. We also see a lot of younger people that are involved in accidents, motor vehicle accidents, diving injuries, any kind of injury that produces head injury or spinal cord injury.
Warm Springs offers speech and hearing therapy and psychological help and driver's education with specially equipped vehicles that enable handicapped people to learn to drive. It may seem ironic that the warm water coming out of the ground, that was a reason for the hospital's being here in the first place, is not being used in treatment or therapy here now. It was used in the big outdoor pool at one time, and it will be used to heat the buildings. The water that is used in baths and pools here now is average well water. It feels good, just the same.
Gonzales Pioneer Village began several years ago when Sandra Wolf decided to find out if other people in her town were as interested in saving Texas history as she was. There was no money and no land, but there was a little interest, and that was enough to get Sandra Wolf started.
We have 6 buildings on the site right now. 1 is under construction. The other 5 are fairly well completed. We're in the process of furnishing the ones we do have completed. So far we've got a building from each decade. We've got a building starting in the 1830s, one in the 1840s, 1850s. We have a blacksmith shop from the 1860s, a barn from the 1870s, which came from a plantation. And we have 2 buildings to move in, 2 houses that are from the 1880s. And then we have another older structure that's still out in the pasture that is completely down, and it's a dog-run cabin, and it's been written up as the oldest structure in the county of Gonzales.
Sandra's dream came true on an ideal piece of Gonzales County real estate, where one of the first streets in town was located. Today, carpenter Brian Beesing spends a lot of time out here in the country, figuring out jigsaw puzzles. Brian takes old pieces of lumber that have been moved here from some neighboring community, sorts it out, and puts it all back together again. Brian is the only paid member of the group. All the other workers are volunteers who dress up in old-timey clothes and show up on the days when visitors come calling. They're still expanding the village, but it's open when enough people express enough interest in walking over the grounds. Most of the time, the visitors are school children from area schools on field trips exploring local history. On those days, Sandra and some of the other women in town dress the part of pioneer women and give the young people a taste of what it was like to live in the 1800s. The pioneer village at Gonzales may never be complete. They're always adding something to it, keeping the scenery fresh for the next busload of school kids to enjoy.
Horace Egleston brought his dreams with him from Ontario County, New York. He left behind a bad marriage and an unhappy life and came to Texas in the 1820s to build a new life for himself. He fought at San Jacinto, remarried, and had a family, and later built what is now considered the oldest home still standing in Gonzales. The Egleston home was near the Guadalupe River in the beginning, but today it's located on Business Highway 90 and is the property of the Daughters of the Republic of Texas. They care for it and show it to the public. From 1836 to 1840, there was little activity in Gonzales. It had been directly in the path of the runaway scrape. Sam Houston ordered the entire town burned during the war when the Texans were running for their lives and Santayana's Mexican troops were right behind them. So when Egleston arrived, there were no other buildings standing in the town. But he liked the land and the people he came with, and in 1840 he asked builder Jesse K. Davis to help him plan a home. There were 2 large rooms with a wide hall called a dog run. 70 of the county's largest trees were cut down for the construction. Doors and windows were sawed out after all the logs were in place. There was no glass for the windows, so heavy paper was used, and mud was packed between the logs for insulation. It's nothing really special, but it's a symbol of one man's faith that Gonzales would rebuild following the war. Horace Egleston took the first step. He lived in the home until his death in 1855. It's a strong and sturdy building, like the man, and it has survived the years, and so has the Egleston name in Gonzales County.
About 10 years ago, we made a decision to start custom feeding cattle for other people. Mainly at that time, it was to create a cash flow for the total ranch, and it's done that. And we started out basically feeding our own cattle till we could prove to ourselves that we could do the job and we could do it better than anybody else could. And so we've over the last 10 years, we've built our operation around our custom feedlot.
They call it custom feeding, but it's really the good life for cattle, or as good as life can get for a cow that's going to be butchered. There are other custom feedlots around the state and many other larger than Cannonade, but few of the others accomplish what this ranch has accomplished. Not only does it pamper cattle, it's also a working ranch and a commercial pecan orchard. And the owner, Josephine Abercrombie of Houston, is also a boxing fanatic. She has a training facility here, and several world-class boxers work out part of the year. Tommy Hagelin looks like a cowboy rancher. He acts like one too, but he talks like a businessman, and that's probably why he's the man in charge.
It's an exciting time in the industry because it's changing so much and so fast, and we've found out that instead of producing a product and just putting it out there on the market and expecting it to get acceptance, that we're having to listen to the consumer and find out what they want and then produce it. And that's a long-term goal. It takes a lot of money and a lot of time to get there, but we're in the infancy of it right now. But the whole industry is coming to realize it, and the people that are going to stay in business are going to have to stay consumer-oriented.
There are 46 pens at Cannonade. Each is capable of holding 120 head of cattle. They can feed up to 6,500 head at one time. They raise their own food here and have feeders who are part cattlemen, part nutritionists, and part heavy equipment operators. 17 men and women run the place, some on horseback, some behind the wheels of a big truck, some at computer terminals. And their customers range from full-time cattle ranchers who just don't want the hassle of worrying with newborn calves to city slickers who only want to tell their friends that they're in the cattle business.
We've got a certain percentage of our customers that are in no other way involved in the ranching business other than the cattle that they've got in our feedlot. It is an opportunity for somebody that doesn't own their own place or their own land to be able to own cattle and not have to really worry about the daily care and feeding of them.
Cannonade specializes in custom feeding cattle, but it doesn't stop there. It also employs a man who finds a market for your cattle once they've graduated from this place. As you might expect, the diplomas mean certain death for the critters. At the end of 120 days, this beef heads for the slaughterhouse. The owners can expect about $50 profit on each cow if everything goes as planned. Like any other business, if you own enough and if nothing goes wrong, then you can make a lot of money. The animal's future is not so pleasant, but it's one of those hard, cold facts of life. And after all, the time they spend here at Cannonade is very pleasant indeed.
When we receive the cattle here, we look after their health, we feed them, and all they're expected to do is eat and drink water and sleep until they're ready for market.
I am standing at the Lexington of Texas. Gonzales is spoken of in such lofty company because, like the Minutemen, it was here that the embattled Texas farmers stood to fire the shot heard round the world. If that sounds a bit high-blown, try your own version of 18 farmers and merchants and just plain folks against an empire. By 1835, Gonzales was a fairly young town and a marked place, it seemed. No sooner had it been laid out than the Indians attacked it and burned it. Rebuilt, it became the edge of Mexican influence in Texas. And the Mexican government, still worried about those Indians, gave the town a small brass cannon for defense. As cannons go, it really wasn't very much. But with Austin and his people in San Felipe making noises and young Travis sounding off and Sam Houston acting like a military commander itching for an army to command, the Mexicans decided they'd better take that cannon back. It had been sent here, you see, by a gracious president to shoot at Indians, they figured, not Mexican soldiers. So a colonel sent a troop of cavalry over from San Antonio to Gonzales to retrieve that cannon. The troops arrived and encountered one Andrew Ponton, who was the mayor, the alcalde of this town. They demanded the cannon. He stalled them, saying he needed some kind of official document. The cavalry commander, a bit confused by the whole thing, rode away back to San Antonio for the orders, and Ponton and his men buried that cannon in George Davis Peach Orchard on September 29th. 18 men had been recruited out of the town for the hiding of the cannon and the securing of the river to keep the Mexicans from crossing it. They simply stole all the boats on the Guadalupe near town. A few of the 18 were sent out into the countryside to alert the populace that big things were about to happen here. By the time a new Mexican force of less than 200 men had arrived, the Gonzales 18 had grown to 160. The commander of the locals was John Moore. He was an Indian fighter, an ardent revolutionist, and as one of the best historians around called him, simply the big man in the neighborhood. Maybe for that reason, he was elected colonel. Serving with him was J.W.E. Wallace. He was elected lieutenant colonel. And so it was that a Tennessean and a Pennsylvanian were about to play out a key role in Texas. With the Mexicans somewhere over there and the nervous Texans somewhere over here, the cannon was rescued from its grave in the peach orchard and taken to a village smithy who attached some ox cart wheels and stuffed that barrel of the cannon full of black powder and scrap iron and links of chain. Moore had been busy too, designing a flag, 2 yards of white cloth with a picture of a cannon right in the middle and the words, "Come and take it." The flag, of all the flags that flew over this state, was probably the least misunderstood. When the confrontation came on October 2nd, Moore stood by his cannon saying it was given for the defense of themselves and the Constitution and the laws of the country. Besides, he said, Santa Anna has trampled underfoot all the constitutions of Mexico except Texas, and the Texans were prepared to defend it. The Mexican captain said he wasn't here to cause any war, he just came to take his cannon back. And the brash Texan suggested he might as well surrender right then and there and just save a lot of time. The Mexican refused, and Moore ordered the cannon to fire. All hell broke loose. One Mexican may have been killed, but no one is really sure what happened, except that the Mexicans withdrew and the cannon remained. The Texans tossed their hats into the air and slapped each other on the back. But then the realization of that first shot slowly began to sink in. What had been talked about in the lofty councils of San Felipe, whispered in the saloons of Brazoria, and shouted from the stumps of Anahuac and Nacogdoches was going to happen. It would mean the revolution was on. Texas would be at war. The free men of Texas were called to arms. This was the day, this was the hour. There was no turning back from here.
Reach up, slow it out. Now, once more. Slow it out. Drop your arms down by your sides. We're gonna roll our shoulders back. Just lift our arms.
Everybody who was anybody stayed at the Alcalde Hotel in Gonzales in the old days. It was the place to be seen, the place to meet people, and the place to find out what was going on in town. Today, however, the only people who gather here regularly are the women who participate in senior ladies aerobics in the recovery room on the second floor. The 40-room brick building that introduced Gonzales into the 20th century is idle today. One old-timer still has a room here, but only because the owner just can't put her out in the cold. The rest of the hotel is closed, put on hold until Deidre Voigt can save up enough money to restore the old place and reopen it as a relic of the past. Deidre's grandfather built it. Her grandmother kept it going after World War II. Deidre inherited it because nobody else in the family wanted to worry with it. And today, the Alcalde is in Deidre's blood.
It seems like things that were built over 50 years ago, 40, 30, 40, 50 years ago, it seems like they were built and operated with a lot of pride, you know, and sincerity and stuff like that. And that's all I can really come up with. Not just here, but in all the different buildings and the homes and everything around. There was craftsmanship put into the structure, and and there was pride and sincerity and the operation of it or the care of the home or something like that. And I guess that's what it is. You know, because I know so many of the old timers and their families, and there was just pride in everything.
I mean, it twice that time, whatever. Have a nice day.
The hotel may be just about empty, but the coffee shop keeps things hopping around here. Old-timers venture in daily to see friends and tell stories.
I learn something here every day. Every day. I love it, yeah. Don't believe half of what I hear, you know.
Droopy came to this country from Syria. He was a hot-blooded Arab who had little patience and knew how to get things done. His wife, Helen, and a brother were delayed in getting through U.S. Customs, so Arab smuggled them in through Canada. Droopy's old country skills were in tailoring, and he was a tailor most of his life. He loved the United States and named his 7th child America. As he accumulated belongings in this country, he decided to build a hotel and a restaurant here. His son carried on the tradition after Pop Droopy died. All the locals agree that both Droopy men were real characters and are still the center of conversation whenever old-timers get together in the Alcalde coffee shop.
They talking about Willie Nelson. And he said, and they just went on and on. He said, who in the hell is Willie Nelson? No, and they laughed. He said, you don't know who Willie Nelson is? He said, I said, I bet he don't know me either.
They didn't argue. They always yelled. Still today.
They didn't talk low, they talked real loud.
And today, my uncles could tell, you know, I can go see them, and just talking to me, they start yelling at me, you know, just yelling at me. That's just how they talk.
I don't believe you'll ever find another place like this. If you do, I'd like to see it.
It'll make but one, right?
That's it. This is it. This is it.
Why don't you tell me about that banker that used to be here, said to get rid of the Alcal Hotel, things would be a lot better in this town.
Well, yeah, and we did that too. We did that too.
What was wrong? Why did he want to get rid of it?
She said all rumors started
right over here.
Oh.
The Gonzales County Mental Health Advisory Board was looking at ways to raise money for our local mental health clinic. And the staff at the mental health clinic was already on a diet. And one of our staff members, our secretary, Elaine Baker, came up with the idea of having a weight loss contest for the whole city as a fundraiser. We never expected to have such a great response.
Good Thursday morning, South Texas. Fast Eddie sitting in at 10:22 in the morning. Thank you ever so much for locking in your morning radio dial to the latest and greatest in country. KCTI 1450 AM and KPJN 106.3 FM, downtown Gonzales, serving South Texas with their favorite music since 1947.
There's a man in a Stetson hat, howling like an alley cat, outside my window tonight. Say, baby, put on something hot, meet me in the parking lot, about 1:45. I get the feeling that he's never read. I'm getting tired of these one-night stands, but if you want to make a real romance,
It was a weight loss contest that involved the whole city, and it was the first, as far as anyone knew. It all began as a joke, but 170 people in Gonzales are not laughing now. They're on rigid diets and rigid exercise programs. At noon, when they used to eat lunch, they are now strolling around the town square, walking.
Oh.
The cake shops and the ice cream parlors are not as busy as they used to be. In all, 32 teams were created. They gave themselves names like the Apple Dumpling Gang, the Heavy Headliners, the Portly Piglets, and others.
Actually, we got a memo in our paycheck envelopes that told us all about it, and I got real interested about it, and we went around seeing if we could get team members together, and that's how our team got started, the Lardette.
How'd you come up with the name?
Well, we all have rather large behinds.
I'm Mary Helen Douglas, and I'm with Dr. Prang's Portly Piglets. And the reason I joined this was because I needed to lose some weight. I've just had a baby. He's 4 months, well, he'll be 4 months old on the 28th.
I was intending to lose some weight 1st of January, and after enrolling in Lose Your Buns for Fun, I really got motivated, and every week I look forward to coming down here and weighing in every week.
In the beginning, the combined weight of the 34 teams in town was 31,750 pounds.
What team are you
So far, the contestants have lost more than 1,600 pounds. One man has lost more than 40 pounds.
And the neatest thing about the contest is that it's given an incentive to so many people who normally have had a lot of trouble losing weight. And because of the excitement in this contest, they have done it very easily, and it has been a lot of fun.
Here's the top 10 reasons for losing your buns for funds. Reason number 10, one size does not fit all. Number 9, no, cholesterol does not mean stuff your face. Number 8, exercise does not mean finger calisthenics.
The campaign has been a moneymaker, too, for the local mental health board, and it's getting some national attention. Richard Simmons has donated some of his weight training tapes to the project.
And the number 1 reason for losing your buns for funds? Just because you can't see your rear end doesn't mean it's not there.
He changed his clothes and brushed his teeth.
Aaron Allen has even written a song about it.
And his mother cried as he walked out, "Don't take your buns to town. Carl, leave your buns at home." And ice cream cones so big and fine.
No question about it, Gonzales has created something here that may just catch on. The first one has been so successful that now the people of town are talking about making the Lose Your Buns for Funds campaign an annual event.
I'm eating it.
The population here has been bombarded with the bun movement.
Don't take your buns to town, son. Leave your buns at home. Carl, take your buns to town.
Long search for 9 $8.79. $50, 55, $50 ahead, you mind buy 55, 60, movie 60, 60 bucks, 60. They don't eat much. 80, 20, 80, 20, 1 day, 1 day,
Anyway, the cattle are ready. What?
But when I have a birthday, I'll be 75. I hope I have
You
one.
kidding me?
I hope I have another one.
Yeah.
My birthday's 3 days after Christmas.
I started working here when I was about 11 years old, and worked everywhere here, and ended up with the opportunity to buy it about 15 years ago, and really jumped on that because it's what I'd wanted to do my entire life. Everyone does it a little bit different, has their own style and own, and that just develops over time after you've been doing it for some time. It's just like waking up in the morning. And it's kind of family oriented. My wife is partners with me here on this, and my family all works here. Guy can bring his calf in here at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, and by about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he can get a check and go home.
I live right here in town. I come up here, try to be here every Saturday, just to kind of look at the situation over, see what they're bringing, and talk. This is where they all meet at, all them old men. How old are you, Herb?
I'm 90.
He's 90 years old, Herb. I'm 82. Me and him always sit together. Had another one, you sit right down there, and he passed away, Dykes Green. We hate it means a lot to us. So David, I know David all his life, I guess.
David Shelton, the owner of this auction, his wife Kathy's my first cousin, and our great-great-grandfather is Thomas Plowman. He drove cattle from Gonzales County in the 1880s all the way to Kansas 5 different times. It had to be a hard go, but it was a way to make a living when there was no other way to make a living back then.
A lot of these people lived in rural areas. They would only come to town maybe on the weekends, and they might bring a calf or two. And that was their cash flow, and they'd get their check and they'd go downtown and buy their groceries. And downtown used to just be seething with people on Saturdays, and now if they weren't looking for antiques, there wouldn't be a human being there.
1996, Gonzales County had approximately 210,000 mama cows. I talked to David about 2 weeks ago, and I said, how many cows do we have in the county right now? He said about 60,000 mama cows.
Cow numbers are way down all over the United States. The cow numbers are down, so they need them, and plus, finally got the import into these other countries. China, for example, Japan. They started importing our meat, finally, and it hurt.
I can't understand how bulls can be bringing $1.30, $1.35 a pound. Bulls all go for a hamburger. So you can see what the price of hamburger is going to be if they're paying this price for it on the hoof. Hamburger will go really high.
The cattle business has changed a lot because they're so short of cattle now, We were in about a 3-year drought, 4-year drought. Well, we didn't get any rain at all, and people just had to sell out.
It's a shrinking business. Every time a place sells, may or may not put cattle on it. Nearly everyone also has a job in town to support the cow deal when it's not good, and they're just trying to preserve a way of life and keep their farm. Most of them aren't trying to make it get bigger, they're just trying to keep it from getting smaller.
high, 75, 16, quarter, 16 high, 75, 16, 75, 9 quarter, 13 a quarter, high, 75, 13, 75, 75, 75, 14 quarter, 14 high, 75, 1500 a quarter, high, 75, 235, 40, 235, 40, 40, 40, 5, 45, 45, 50, 50, 50, 55, 55, 260, sir, 265, 260 hill, 260 hill, I give it 225, and 30, 5, 5, 55, 65, 5, 70, 75, 278, 85, 285, 90, 290, 290, 290, 285, 285, rush 45, rush 45, rush 45, 180, 295, 185, 185, 185, 185, 185,